Alright, we're going to have a look at some cabling without a cable needle right now. And all of these cables that we're going to look at here are going to be worked over 2 stitches. I do a lot of knitting with Bavarian twisted stitches, patterns like these, where there is a very fine kind of cabling done where there are a lot of cables with one single stitch twisting over a single background stitch, and it results in very, very attractive stitches like these heart cables here, and these zigzagging, stakey, stabby, bitey kind of cables here. This is on my staked sock pattern through Indigo Dragonfly yarns, and this is her yarn as well that we're using here to look at the sample. I do cabling without a cable needle most of the time. It's harder to do over many stitches, so if I have a cable that's more than about 6 or 8 stitches, I tend to use a cable needle just because it's a lot of stitches to leave live at some time. But if you're working with a small number of stitches, cabling without a cable needle is very convenient, and if you can get the hang of it, it moves a lot faster quite often than having to reach for the cable needle every single time you want to do a twist. So I'm going to demonstrate here a right twist and a left twist, and by twist I mean the actual direction of the cable stitch. Strictly speaking, when you're looking at cables, you either have twists such as here, where there is a knit stitch twisted over a knit, which is generally referred to as a typical cable. But then you also have twists like here, or like along here, where you have a knit stitch twisting over a background purl stitch, and those are generally referred to as twists because it's not an entirely knit kind of stitch. If you're cabling without a cable needle, it doesn't actually matter, because the way I do it, you just make the twist first and then you work the stitches second as you want to, given the pattern instructions. So whether or not you're doing a twist involving some purls and some knits, or whether or not you're doing a typical cable where all the stitches are knitted, it doesn't actually matter, because all you have to do is work the twist first, replace all the stitches on the needle, and then work the stitches as the pattern means for you to do. First, I'm going to demonstrate a right twisting cable, and this is going to be a cable where both stitches are knitted, and in this case knitted through the back loop, because all of these are twisted stitches as well as cable twists. Twisted stitches are worked through the back loop instead of a normal front loop. If we were going to knit the stitches as normal, we would go in through the front of the knitted stitch like this, in through the front, and then wrap. But as we were working knit through the back loop, this is when you want to go through the back loop of the stitch to do the knit. But we're going to work the cable twist first, and in this case on a right leaning cable. It's a right leaning cable, so we're going to start with all the stitches on the right needle. And in any case, the stitch that moves to the foreground, or the stitch that twists over top, in this case is going to be this second stitch here. This is going to be the first stitch of the cable, the second stitch of the cable. These are all worked over 2 stitches in this case. The first stitch is going to be the one traveling over top of that second one, and this means that the one that travels in front or to the foreground is the one that we're going to leave live in the process of working the stitch. When you're doing a cabling without a cable needle step, at some time you're going to have a live stitch, and it just means that there will be some point where there is a stitch left off a needle, but it's very, very short. It's very, very quick. You're not leaving it live for very long, as we can see, and even if you were to drop that live stitch, it's pretty easy to scoop it back up again and carry on without worrying about it. So we're working a right twisting cable. So we first moved all the stitches over to the left, to the right hand needle from the left hand needle. And what we're going to do is we're going to slip the left hand needle through the stitch that's going to travel to the background. In other words, that second stitch, because it's the first stitch there that's going to twist to the right. And then we're going to remove that right hand needle. And then we have one stitch that is temporarily live. This is off the needle. But we're going to scoop it right back up again, and then put it back onto the left hand needle. So essentially we've just twisted the stitches, we've done the twist for the cable, and then we've replace both those 2 stitches back on the left hand needle. And now we work them just as we mean to, which in this case means knitting both through the back loop, because that's how this pattern goes. So we're going to work them both as knit through the back loop. 1, 2, oops. Sometimes you just have to work them a little bit backwards there when you get a slip. So then I'm just going to work a few purls and knit through the back loop here to catch up to the next cabled stitch.